Okay, how about now? How about now? All right, let's try. Oops, how about now? La 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 la. Could this be working or not? Still not working? Oh, there's so many settings on this damn thing. Oh, hang on. La 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 la. Still working on the settings. La la la. All right, CAD mic. I don't know why it says CAD mic here. Oh wait, there it's now it's working. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. Okay, but is it sound loud enough? I like. Oh my God, is it loud enough though? Too loud? What's that issue? It everything. I don't know why. Well, I do know why because when I go to Chicago, I have to use the mic I carry with me. So because it's a much more complicated setup now, I have to use the. I have to use the. I'm using a computer program called OBS. That's a little complicated. A little low. Let me see if I can turn it up. I don't know whether this does turn it. Let's see if that turns it up. Okay. Let's see if that turns it up. Is it any louder now? Yeah. So I have to use a computer program called OBS. And when I go to Chicago, because I'm using a different mic, I have to go in the program and change the mic, which drives me crazy. I know I'm starting TikTok next. We're starting doing this. Volume's a bit low. Nothing we can do about that. Yeah, TikTok, we were waiting until I got this figured out. Now I will start TikTok. Oh my God. But yes, the audio interface, a little quiet. There's nothing I can do with that. All right, let's see how TikTok's doing here. Oh my God. This is what I mean, I sort of hate about traveling because I come back and everything's different. Hey, TikTokers, we were trying to get some issues set up with my microphone. So it's set up now, but Jesus, the volume's a little low, but what do you do? Let me just look here. Hang on a second. Let me look. Anyway, hey, TikTokers. Yeah, like I said, we're having a little bit of an issue here. Oh, actually, hold on. Let me get rid of the CAD mic. Okay, CAD mic is gone. Mic auxiliary, monitor, audio monitoring, monitor. All right, I think this should be working. Yeah, I can't figure out how to get it any louder, though. It's at 100% for this mic. Okay. Now, let me just check, though. It is this microphone that I'm using, right? Not for you guys. TikTok, you're okay. For YouTube, is this the mic that I'm using? It should be coming and going as I move the mic. Is it coming and going? Or otherwise, it's using the mic on my computer instead. Hey, TikTok. Like I said, having issues on YouTube. So did that make the sound go back and forth on YouTube? If so, then it's the correct mic at least. It did. Okay, that's good. No, it's not. I mean, I'm not asking if it's fine. I was asking whether it went back and forth. Yes, it did. Okay. Okay, then that's good. Anyway, all right. You know what? It works well enough, even if it's low. There's nothing we can do with that. All right. Hey, TikTokers. Sound is bad for you? Don't even. Oh, sound is going to be bad on TikTok. There's nothing I can do about that. That's the other issue. TikTok sound is also not going to be great. Hey, TikTokers. Thank you, Bryce, who's that? Bryce for the gift. Richard and Maggie as well. Yeah, TikTok, the other fun thing I did today is I left my stand for my iPad. Thank you, Derek. Thank you, Richard. And Ava. I left my stand for my iPad in Chicago. Thank you, John. And the stand is how I do TikTok. So TikTok, normally, you notice you're lower today because you're on the table. Normally, you're on a stand, which makes you higher because basically when you do video, you kind of want it at eye level. So you kind of want the video like this, basically, right? When it's lower, it's a little weirder. Thank you, Blue Ariel, for the gift. But because it's on the table, I can't plug my microphone into the bottom of the iPad. So you're getting just the regular iPad microphone today. So that's its own bit of joy. Oop, hey, I'm going to try to actually lift this up a little bit to see if that helps. Here, we're going to lift this. Oh, God, forget it. I'm not even going to. Trying one more thing with the iPad. There we go. Lifting the iPad a little to see if that helps with the sound. Oh, my God. Okay. All right, I'm better now. But, oh, my God. I'm just like, ah! I'm back. I'm back. Anyway, hi, guys. I'm back in D.C., but, boy, it is living hell switching my computer setup when I'm in Chicago and then coming back here. Thank you, Lamb Chop. Because all the settings have to change. Thank you, Kevin. All the settings have to change, and it just makes life a little more confusing. I'm just trying to adjust this a little. Let's do that maybe. That's not bad. All right. Okay, welcome everybody. Oh my God. Thank you, Lamchuk. Thank you, Kevin. Is there a German word for this experience? Exactly. Well, Schadenfreude, maybe. I don't know. All right, guys. Enough of that. So welcome everybody. Thank you, Warren. Who is this? Who else with the gifts? Thank you, Warren, for the gifts. Thanks, guys. Hey, guys. Actually, I need to get my good chair moved over too. I've got a really nice chair I'm sitting in, but it's not my computer chair. So yes, thank you, Carl Vincent, for doing a gifting a membership today that Dennis just picked up. Excellent. So anyway, welcome everybody. Oh my God, crazy day for me. Can I Zoom? I can't. Let me see. I'm going to see a second. Can I? Oh, I can Zoom. I always forget I can Zoom on the iPad. Nice. There we go. Okay, that's not bad. That's not bad. Yeah, a little bit of a Zoom. Helps on the iPad a little. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Matt. Warren, for the gifts, everybody. So welcome, guys. Like I said, today's been a little, little frenzy-ish, but we're okay. So I'm still trying to get here we go. I was trying to get, thank you for, who's that with the gifts? Thank you, GMA, Vicky, Adventures, Alan, Jetta. Oh my God, thanks, guys. I was trying to lift the iPad up a little, hoping it maybe helps with the microphone a little bit. Oh my God. All right, guys, how are you all doing today? I'm back in DC, as you can see. Welcome. What else is going on? Oh, I didn't give the dog water before the show, so at some point we're going to be doing that. I use like a thing on my window, a little suction cup hook, because I hang a shirt up, because otherwise the light comes in. That kind of blinds a little bit. You might notice on YouTube, for example, the light. You guys, a little bit of a light for you guys. Thank you, user. But my suction cup fell while my friend Damien was house sitting, and I have no idea where he put the suction cup. So it's hiding. I love Damien, but every time Damien house sits, like 3 different things will find a new home somewhere in the house. And I can never find them. So today it's the suction cup that stops the sunlight from hitting the show. Oh my God. All right. Scheisse. Exactly. Oh my God. Yeah. Scheisse is a better German word for how I feel right now. No, we love Damien. And Damien's great. Damien took care of my plants. My plants are all flowering. I mean, amazing job he did. But he always, it's like a kid's game. He hides 3 things from me, not on purpose, but every time I'm gone. Thank you, Mustard. Oh man. My flowers are blooming. Oh yeah. I've only have one. Although I will say, this is on my African violet. I had repotted my African violets and they almost died on me. This one I like because it's a model. You guys can see here on YouTube. It's a mottled flower, which is really pretty. You guys can see too. It's this beautiful, like speckled, we say mottled, M-O-T-T-L-E, in flower talk. But it's a beautiful flower. But my African violets, boy, I learned, right, I swear to God, we will talk about news in a minute. But I learned that African violets, very unhappy when you transplant them. Thank you, Big Hawk. Mine were getting too leggy. They kind of grow out of the pot after a while and get a long stem. You transplant them, very upset plants. I Googled because they were dying. You've got to cut off like half the flowers on your African violet. Variegated, yeah, variegated is the better word, actually. You're right, Deb. It's not mottled. Although you'd say mottled as well, but variegated is the better word. Yeah, African violets. So when you transplant them, make sure you cut off a ton of the flowers on the bottom. Otherwise, don't work. So I saved them, and then Damien got them flowering again. All right, guys. Hello. Hello, all. So I am back in DC. Tomorrow, remember, I'm going to be in Philadelphia. So water from the bottom, exactly. You can absolutely propagate from just a leaf. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep, they grow. Actually, I've got some. Actually, I was going to auction some of these. I did auction some. But, yeah, Nicholas, there is no microphone today because I forgot my stand for my iPad, which is how I do TikTok. I left it in Chicago. So it's coming. I bought a new one. It's coming on Sunday. And I can't stick the microphone in the bottom of the iPad because it's on the table. So it literally like jams into the table. So you're just getting my my iPad microphone is how we're doing it today. But yes, so since we're talking plants, the African violets, you will see right here. You take the flower, you take the leaf, you simply put it in water, and it roots. Actually, you can even see it's getting little leaves under the water. But see, African violets root quite easily. You just take the leaf and put it in water, and it takes a few months. You know, so very nice. All right. Oh my God. Anyway, welcome everybody. So what I was gonna do, this is about Ukraine. It's just been crazy today. So I'll auction it again. Yeah, no, I'll auction. I had auctioned off some already. And these I had rooted to auction. Actually, I rooted them to auction them, but also because when I transplanted the plants, they started dying on me and I was terrified I was going to lose them. Thank you, McFadge. So now my plants are doing well, so we're okay. No, there's no way. Yeah, WC, I ordered a new stand for the iPad. So the new stand's coming on Sunday and that'll fix it. Anyway, guys, so welcome all. I just saw somebody said they're in the Philly suburbs. Hey, Sue. So yes, so welcome, guys. So what I was going to do today anyway, because I just got back to DC last night. It was a harrowing experience. Southwest lost my bag for like an hour. The bag didn't arrive. I was like, are you kidding me? Who was that? Thank you, Nicholas, for the gift. Super Hornet as well. My gift arrived. My suitcase didn't arrive last night, but they said, oh, it's on the next flight. So that was good. It arrives at 8 o'clock at night, but the delivery service doesn't pick it up until 11:30 at night, so it didn't arrive here at my apartment until 12:30 last night. I was exhausted because I was flying back from Chicago, so I didn't get to bed till like 1:30. Had a horrible night. Bottom line is I was exhausted today. Thank you, Elizabeth. So I decided I was going to do a lighter show tonight anyway. Just hit a few. I was sort of went through the news and picked like a few of the big stories that I thought you should know about. Thank you, Marie. Thank you, Elizabeth, for the gifts. And then I figured we'd have a much a more open chat show today, since we haven't had one of those in a while. So I'll go through sort of several of the maybe how many I got 5 or 6, I think, sort of stories that I think are relevant that you guys should know about, and then we'll open it up and have it a much more you and me show, which is what I typically do on Saturday for the members only show for the monthly subscribers. Saturday, I will not be doing my monthly subscriber show because I'm going to be in Philadelphia, as I said. I'm going tomorrow to Philadelphia, my cousin's husband's 60th birthday. So they're having a big like weekend-long bash, different restaurants and things. So I'm going to Philadelphia tomorrow. Thank you, Martin. And coming back Sunday afternoon. Thank you, Sean. Anyway, so yeah, Saturday, I know International went well. Oh, I came prepared. I bought extras of these, by the way. Thank you, Macabre, for the gift. Thank you, Sean. I actually have one here in DC now and one in Chicago. And my little Greek goat. I saw that, Ash. I figured you'd know. So we've got like a pair in Chicago and a pair in DC. So the trolls will not find us. Anyway. How's everybody doing, huh? I feel like it's Friday. What, I should auction the goat? I never know if people, the thing is, I will say, you guys pretend like you want this stuff and then I auction. It's sort of like the African violets. I auctioned off the African violets once. There was some interest. There wasn't a lot of interest. Sometimes I think you guys are more interested in the concept of the auctions than some of the auctions we do. So, we'll see. I was in Bali. I was in, a number of different places, but Ubud, mostly Ubud, and then up north by Lavina, if you know Bali. Not really in the south. We didn't want to stay in the southmost area. Thank you, Jane, for the gifts. All right, guys, let's go through several of the news stories. As I said, I picked maybe 5 or 6 stories today that I thought were kind of the most relevant, and go Australia. I know I do need to go to Australia. I totally need to go to Australia. I've not been. I actually have family in Australia. That one of the ancestry thing. The only our family is pretty big and extended, and we tend to know who everybody is. I did the DNA tests. Thank you, Jeff, for the gifts, by the way. I did the DNA test, and the only not surprising, the only interesting result, because the problem with the DNA test is you get a ton of people from that are way too distant, and there's no way of figuring out who they are. So there's some genetic connection, but there's just no way of knowing, right? And there's always some error with not error, but these tests are not 100% anyway. So if it's a small percentage, you don't really know. But there is, we did find some Australian family, and we pretty much think we know what the connection is. It's very interesting. Basically, this guy and I connected, and we think we have the same not grandparent, not great-grandparent, We think it's, I think, great-great-grandparent. So it's pretty far back. It's back like in the 1800s in Greece, but they're in Australia, which would be kind of neat. Because basically we think we know enough. We know the family in common. We've got the name in common. Thank you, Jonathan. We've got the name in common that they're not Aravosis, but we've got the same, like we know the family name and everything that's connected. So it's kind of neat. And yeah, there's a ton of Greeks in Australia. Exactly, Frank. So that would be kind of fun just to go see them because it's super distant family. He might be. I asked him where they were. I think he said Melbourne. I have to double check. I've got it. I saved it in my, I asked him the other day kind of what city they were in, but I need to go visit because I want to go to Australia anyway. Americans we like the Australians. We tend to hit it off pretty well, and we Anglophones all get along pretty well. Other than the South Africans, we don't really feel a connection with them. But with the Australians and the Brits, we definitely feel a connection. New Zealanders, I'm guessing. Like I haven't really met too many people from New Zealand. Very rare. You just don't meet them as much. Hey, Marsha. All right, guys, so come on in, you. So the dog was freaking a little bit. She was afraid that there was a chance of rain, and my dog is like the meteorologist in the family. So she can always tell things. Thank you, Marsha. Actually, that sombrero that Murray actually had is pretty cool. I never fully realized like how big and colorful it was. That is pretty neat. Thank you for that. Anyway, guys, so welcome. Let's get rolling here. As I said, I've got about maybe 5 or 6 stories that I think are interesting. We spent half an hour doing this between the problems with the audio, talking about the flowers, and then talking about going here. Oh, my God. Traveling with the dog is interesting because it's basically, I was telling somebody was asking me actually, because she was wanting to travel with her dog, and she was asking me before we got on the flight yesterday, and I said, I don't have kids, but I imagine traveling with a pet is like traveling with kids. Your entire flight is worrying about them and paying attention to them, So that's what it was. It's fine, but you're worrying about them your entire flight and trying to keep an eye on them, And as I said, I did not give oh my God, all right. The dog, I did not put water out for the dog, so we're doing that right now. And then we are having a show. All right, dog. Yes, you get your water. Yes, you get your water. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, there we go. All right. Woo. God, traveling drives me crazy. Just because, I just got back. My luggage didn't get here till 12:30 last night. I finally unpacked 2 hours ago, and now I'm trying to pack for Philadelphia. It's Eastern Slovakia, Sword Justice is saying I should visit. You'd really like and appreciate the wooden churches that have been there as much as 400 years and no nails used. Now, that's funny because I was just looking at a picture the other day. Norway has the same thing. Norway has got some kind of either old church or churches that are something like 700 years old, and they're made from wood, and that's it. And they're really cool, too, because they're kind of very skinny and tall. The roofs are almost at an angle, I think, like this. They're very cool. But I was just looking at the picture of the Norwegian one the other day. That's interesting. Yeah. No, Josh, actually mods on TikTok, if people start asking about the microphone, just fill them in. I'm not, for a couple days, I'm not going to be able to use my regular mic on TikTok. I'm just using the iPad mic, so therefore it's not as good. But come Sunday, I'm getting my computer stand, my stand again for my iPad, and we'll fix it. All right, guys, let's get rolling. All right, I am feeling better actually. Yes, you guys had mentioned the what was it? Oil of oregano or something. My sister actually had some. I took it, and I will say, the cold I was getting is gone, thank God. So that's good. And I'm actually, the last 2 days, I'm finally feeling improved from all of my Bali issues of the last 2 weeks. I just just uncomfortable. Very, very weird. Anyway, all right, Mustard's getting, all right, calm down, Mustard. Mustard's getting antsy. He wants news. All right, guys, let's get rolling. As I said, we got about 5 or 6 stories, and I figured we'd hang out today. So today's day 805 of Vladimir Putin's special 3-day military operation in Ukraine. Ukrainian drone strikes. So there have been multiple Ukrainian drone strikes against Russian oil facilities, including one that was against a refinery about 1,500 kilometers inside Russia, pretty much directly east of Ukraine. 1,500 kilometers is about 1,000 miles, which is pretty wild. I don't know how much damage it did. It's kind of hard to know from this stuff. The Russians keep denying and claiming there was no damage, of course. What's interesting is that it was that far. I mean, 1,500 kilometers, 1,000 miles. The suggestion, I think, is, we discussed this before, but the suggestion, I think, is that the Ukrainians are not flying these drones from Ukraine, that these drones are probably getting smuggled across the border into Russia, and someone, whether it's the Russian Legion, whether it's Russian partisans or something, are basically smuggling the drones near the oil plants, the oil refineries, and then firing them, taking them, putting them in the air and crashing them into the plant. Much safer in a way. I mean, you still have to be careful they don't catch you, but trying to go 1,500 kilometers or 1,000 miles of a drone, you run a much greater chance of it getting intercepted than, smuggling across the border. So I think that's probably what's happening. Germany, a couple good stories from Germany. Germany is going to buy 3 HIMARS for Ukraine. Germany is also going to provide 45 million euros or $48 million in the form of a grant for energy restoration, because the Russians have been knocking out Ukraine's energy infrastructure. The HIMARS thing was interesting because I wasn't sure. Callum, I think, is with us today. He was checking in before the show. I wasn't sure whether, because we haven't heard like a ton about HIMARS recently, in months, I would say. And I've been kind of curious to, what the hell? It's like someone is moving. Oh, maybe someone's doing some work, a little bit late to be doing work, 6:30 at night. There was some kind of boom, boom, boom going on in the apartment. Thank you, Lori, for the heart. Thank you, Marcia. I don't know to what degree, I'm curious to what degree HIMARS has been making as much of a difference as it did previously. Thank you, Shelley. Or to what degree the Russians have been interfering with like the GPS or whatever the directional system is for the HIMARS. Just kind of curious. Does anybody know actually? Because as I said, I've been a little surprised that we haven't really heard much about the HIMARS system. Thank you, Jess, for the duck. Hang on, I'm adjusting. Oops, put that back on. There we go. Oops. Okay, there we go. Adjusting the color a little bit. Thank you, Rocco, for the rose. But I wasn't quite sure whether HIMARS is having as much of an impact now as it was before. Oops, turn that up again. Don't know if folks know. Okay, nobody knows? Nobody knows. All right. Although typically, I know it takes like a little bit of time for you guys to sort of kick in here. If they have low ammo, makes sense they wouldn't use HIMARS. Well, that's an interesting question, actually. Now, that's an interesting question. I don't know if Callum's here. Callum was checking in before, but I don't know whether he's here. Hold on, we should message him and see. Hang on, let's see. We'll tell him. It's like, Callum, need you have a military question? All right, there we go. Hopefully Callum pops back in. There we go. But yeah, I'm kind of curious because also one of the other questions becomes, oh, thank you. Oh, Dale, what, your rose gift is in the gift gallery. So TikTok has a gift gallery where, depending what gifts you give, if you give a certain number of the right gift or whatever, it lists you as the top giver for the week in the gift gallery until somebody else gives more or whatever. But it's kind of a cute little way of thanking you. So thanks, Dale, and thank you, Derek, for the rose. Thank you, Vicky, for the hat and mustache. But yes, I'm just kind of curious to what degree HIMARS matters, if it matters as much as it did at the beginning of the war. Get the goat ready. But also, I wonder about HIMARS because we're worried about Ukraine. Oh, thanks again, Dale, for the roses, and Big Hawk as well. We're worried about Ukraine not having enough ammunition, right? If they don't have enough ammunition, do more HIMARS help them? Unless they're getting more missiles with the HIMARS, right? Because HIMARS is basically a gun. And it doesn't help having a gun unless you've got the bullets to go in the gun, right? And Ukraine's been low on bullets. So just kind of curious on that one, too. Thank you, Dale and Big Hawk. More roses from you guys. I appreciate that. Callum. Who, Callum's in prison? I think Callum is like busy doing something. Oh, I'm unsure of answer to. Oh, okay. Callum he is with us. He's unsure of the answer. Okay. HIMARS is not his area of expertise, so he's not sure. Okay, fair enough. Hey, Elizabeth, thank you for the gift. Thank you, Taurus, as well, and Big Hawk. In any case, let's move on. The Czech president gave an update on the shells, the artillery shells arriving. You may recall that the Czech Republic very kind of, not bravely, but very smartly, stepped up and basically looked around the world for artillery shells to provide Ukraine. Ukraine's falling short on artillery shells. The Russians have a lot more. The Russians are firing anywhere, in the range of possibly 10-to-1 artillery shells of how many the Ukrainians fight or shoot, right? Thank you, Vicky, because they have so much more. But it's the Czech government went and found like 1.5 million artillery shells around the world that on the open market. They're buying them. It is still not clear how much money the Czech government has. They need a couple $2 billion, I believe, to get all of them. They've been able to get some of them already. The Czech president said that the first batch of shells should be arriving in Ukraine in June, which is about a month from now, which is good. Still depends how many are coming, right? But at least more shells coming is great, especially considering you've got more American aid starting up now and everything else. So at least this is helpful, at least. Hey, Maddie, good to see you. Is the Wagner Group still fighting? They reconstituted the Wagner Group, and they are fighting in Africa, but they've kind of become, I think they're calling it the Africa Corps, because we were laughing about it, because it's what that bad German man in World War II called his troops who were fighting in Africa. They were the Africa Corps. So it's kind of funny that that's what they're calling them. I'm just trying to figure out, what the... Okay, someone's doing something in the building. Wow, I'm getting, this weird banging and stuff. So, anyway. I'm going to call that person slightly... Well, maybe not a troll yet. Okay, I'm not going to call that person a troll yet, Ash. It's an irrelevant question considering we're not talking about it, but it's not quite trolly, so we'll be nice about that. JR says they're integrated into the Army more. That's what it sounds like. They're certainly under the command of the Ministry of Defense now. What'll be interesting to see, thank you, Derek, is whether they're as effective as they were before. They were war criminals before, right? They were vicious, but they were very good at what they did. They were effective troops, but they were war criminals. I mean, they were vicious and bad. Interesting to see now that they've become, much more integrated into the Russian, or integrated, period, not much more, integrated into the Russian military, not this sort of independent private army, whether they're as good anymore, right? In any case, they've been basically working in Africa. So that's where they're working now. I just saw a story the other day that because Wagner is not really doing anything in Ukraine, or not doing much of anything, they've had to rely more on the Chechens. And there's something like 9,000 Chechens that are now working in Ukraine, sort of at the front lines. Because they don't have anybody, not they don't have anybody else, but they don't have the Wagner Group to rely on anymore. All right, Bloomberg. Interesting story from Bloomberg. The U.S. apparently has been successful in stopping the Russians from using Starlink in sort of violation of the rules in Ukraine. There have been a lot of stories over the last several months that the Russians have, Elon Musk claimed he wasn't going to let the Russians use Starlink, and the U.S. government doesn't want them to either, obviously. The Russians have been getting access. There were lots of stories about it. The Russians were bragging about it. They were buying the systems, and I think it was the UAE, United Arab Emirates, I think, was the one that was facilitating the Russians. At least that was the story, and getting these. And Bloomberg reports that the U.S. so far has successfully blunted the Russian effort to use Starlink in Ukraine. No details on it. But what I believe it was a Pentagon spokesperson said, a space policy chief at the Pentagon said, at this time, we have successfully countered Russia's use of Starlink, but I'm certain Russia will continue to try and find ways to exploit Starlink and other commercial communication systems. So that's good, at least. At least they've managed to, or we've managed to, stop Russia from using Starlink in Ukraine. Starlink is basically satellite internet, very useful for drones and other things. One more story. As I said, I'm not covering a ton of stuff today because it's been just a crazy day since I got back last night, and it was kind of, Southwest kind of lost my luggage and kept me up very late, and everything else. But the last story is Zelensky. So this is a weird story. Zelensky dismissed Zaluzhny from military service and claimed it was for health reasons, which is total bullshit. Zaluzhny is the former head of the former general in charge of the war. Okay, head of not head of the military, but top general, and he and Zelensky had sort of a famous clash very publicly. Zelensky said he was going to fire him. Remember, Zaluzhny reportedly said he wouldn't leave, which was very bad because that's not something you do in a democracy. And finally, and I suspect the Western governments probably weighed in at that point because they said, "Forget it, you can't do this." But finally, Zaluzhny steps down. He becomes ambassador to Britain. Well, today it's announced that Zelensky has dismissed him from military service, and as I said, he was dismissed on health grounds, but retains the right to wear a military uniform. Honestly, it just all sounds like weird. I mean, I guarantee you it is. It's weird, petty politics going on in Ukraine. I kind of wish it weren't, because clearly the two men are still fighting, and it's not good, and it kind of, it distracts from what's going on. But nonetheless, I'm mentioning it because it's interesting. And these are the kind of stories that tell you something else is going on behind the scenes. So, and he may become the next president, but saying he's doing it on health grounds is weird. It's a little weird. Yeah. A little bit of, nasty fighting. Anyway, thank you, Annette, for the gift. So that's it for the news, guys. I wanted to sort of keep the news brief tonight because, as I said, I was having just kind of a hellish day doing all this stuff. Anyway, I would still like... Oh, it's my washing machine that's making all the noise. That's funny. Okay. I was wondering what it was. Trying to figure out what the noise is today. Anyway, guys, so let's... We cannot, anyway, now we're going to hang out and talk. So Eurovision, I will not be around on Saturday because I'm going to be in Philadelphia. So unfortunately, I will not be able to do the Eurovision finals, which I love doing because we've been doing it for 2 years now. And this year Vlad was going to join us too. But alas, we're not going to be doing it. So you'll have to watch Eurovision on your own, guys. I would join you, but I can't do it from Philly. So unfortunately, when is Ukraine going to have a coordinated offensive? Probably nothing until next year again. I mean, there's not a big offensive planned for Ukraine really until next year was what, some people were talking about. Not happening anytime soon, And it depends what you mean by coordinated. I mean, they were already trained on sort of, combined arms and stuff. And at least from what I heard, they weren't doing very well with it, They were kind of falling back, the Ukrainians, on sort of the old Soviet tactics. Sadly, not very good. So we're looking here. All right. iPhone. All right, my iPhone's good. All right. Oh, thank you, Pedro, for the gift. I'm still trying to look at the volume thing to see if I can figure out the volume problem, but I don't think I can. Yeah, it is what it is. Audio mixture, CAD. Why does it show CAD here? I don't know. Anyway, it's a little weird. Thank you. Who was that? Thank you, Maddie. Oh, Maddie's doing a lot of gifts here. Thank you, Maddie. Several gifts in a row there. The rose and the hearts. Thank you. Anyway, guys, like I said, let's hang out and talk. So, oops. All right. Yeah, Scarlett, that should be this one. This is as loud as I know how to make it. Oh! I'm being stupid. There's the volume. All right. Sorry, I just turned up the volume on YouTube. Guys, I'm totally forgetting how to do this. That should be a little louder on YouTube now. Thank you, Marsha, for the gifts. Casper as well. Is the volume slightly louder on YouTube? Oh, this is cute. One of my neighbors is asking when I'm back. I'm going to send him a message and say, I'm back. So hopefully that's a touch louder. All right. Yeah, see if it's a little louder. Yeah, hopefully. Frank Thomas is asking, what are my thoughts on the latest assassination attempt on Zelensky? I understand it came within his own bodyguards, not the Russians. I didn't see the latest today, but it was the Russians. I mean, that's what the talk up until 2 days ago was. It was the Russians, that they were using some Ukrainians to do it, but that it was the Russians. So I don't know. Is there? Let me look. Is there new news saying? Let me see. Zelensky assassination. There's no update on it. No, Russian spy agency. Ukraine is saying Russian spy agency plot. Yeah. There's still Russian plot. Yeah. 2 security officials involved in a Russian plot. So the latest is still saying, thank you, Vicky. Thank you, Dale, for the gifts. Is still saying that it's the Russians. I mean, they used Ukrainians to do it, but it was the Russians, which kind of makes sense. I mean, easier to, use somebody internally to go after Zelensky than not. And it's like the 10th or the 11th attempt to kill Zelensky by the Russians, basically. So anyway, what else, guys? What else? And please do keep the gifts coming. I keep forgetting to ask, but I do this full time, guys, and the gifts literally pay the bills. That's how I'm able to keep doing the show. So nobody's paying me. You're the ones who pay me, to be honest. So I'm trying to do this full time and can only do it with your guys' help. So please do keep the gifts coming. Thank you, Adventures. To that degree, always push for gift memberships. So monthly subscribers, big fan of that. So if you could become a monthly subscriber, that's even better, because then it sort of helps out each month. At the same time, wouldn't be a bad thing for you to maybe consider doing gift memberships, which are kind of fun. Thank you, Ginger. Because the gift memberships, basically you can give a gift to somebody else amongst the watchers with us today. And you can do it on TikTok, you can do it on YouTube, and they get a gift membership for a month. And it'll just give it to them automatically. You only pay for 1 month. It automatically shuts off after a month and gives them a chance to basically join our weekend shows and stuff like that. Thank you, Marcia. Adventures as well. Oh, and Marty has a super chat question. Thank you for doing that, Marty. What do you think of the new 100-kilometer artillery shell Germany will send and test? I did not hear about this. That's interesting. What's the deal on that? Anybody know? Or Marty, maybe if you know, but I'm not familiar. And again, Callum's my regular go-to, but I know Mustard's up on this stuff usually. Some of the rest of you, actually, Ashley always surprises me. She always sort of up on the arcane military stuff. Thank you, Cheryl, for the gift. Rookinator is saying it apparently has 3 times the range of traditional artillery. Oh, that's good. Thank you, Adventures, for the hat and mustache. That's interesting. I did not know about this. No. Now, of course, the question is going to be, how much of it do they have to spare? Because that's going to matter. 100-kilometer is something like 60 miles. So that's not bad. And again, if it says it's that, thank you, Cheryl. If they're claiming that's the distance, usually the distance goes farther. I don't know if it's 50% more or what, but typically you get 30% more. Whatever's declared publicly for a military system, the system can do more than is declared. So, but yeah, that's pretty good. I think traditionally for artillery, you're looking more at like 25 miles, something like that, right? Which is maybe 38 kilometers, something. Tell me if I'm wrong, but isn't that typically what you're looking at artillery kind of mileage, 25 miles versus 60 miles, right? Thank you, Phoenix, for the wave. Woo, for the whale. We'll do a wave. Thanks, Phoenix. Just did a very nice gift on TikTok. And Adventures did the hat and mustache. Thank you for that, too. User336 is saying yes or even less. Okay. Yeah, so if you think of artillery normally being 20 to 25 miles or less, going 60 miles is huge. That's 2.5 to 3 times the distance. Thank you, Adventures. And I assume we're talking about it. It keeps the accuracy, right? Because you don't want to lose accuracy as it goes farther. Anyway, what else we got, guys? Beep, 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 beep. Oh, that's cute, Paul. Somebody gifted you a membership. Oh, that's sweet. I know we only know when it goes live, because the second it goes live, you sort of see who gets it. But then after that, it's funny that it doesn't tell you. That's probably a mistake, right? They should tell people who you got it from, just so you could thank them, right? Thank you, Maggie, for the fireworks. Can Russia nuke NATO? No. Jay, do not be scared. It's total BS. Okay, let me rephrase this. Can Russia nuke NATO? Yes. And you know what will happen if Russia nukes NATO? NATO will nuke Russia and Russia will cease to exist. Therefore, Russia won't nuke NATO. Sort of the experts like to say, they don't want to say anything definitive. So they would say it is highly unlikely that Russia will use nukes against NATO because NATO will respond. The US has nuclear weapons. The Brits have nuclear weapons. The French have nuclear weapons. Russia nukes us, we nuke Russia, and Russia dies. Now, we would die too, but that's why we also won't nuke Russia first, right? It goes both ways. During the Cold War, it was called MAD theory, M-A-D, meaning mutual assured destruction. And the idea was that the Russians and us were mutually assured of destroying, of killing each other, basically, with nukes, and therefore neither of us would nuke the other first because we knew the other would respond. So as long as the Russians are convinced that we would respond with nuclear weapons, the Russians will not use nuclear weapons. So you always just have to keep the deterrent up, and you have to make sure that they understand that you'd use them. Now I will say, the reason you're asking, because the Russians talk about this just nonstop. Putin did it again today. Today was the May 9th, World War. The Russians are literally still celebrating World War II. I mean, it's frankly a little manic. But they like to sort of pretend that they were the only people who fought in World War II, even though it was, a lot of us. And even though the U.S. gave Russia a ton of support, the Brits did too, to keep them on their feet during World War II. And the Russians don't like to mention, by the way, today's their big, like I said, their big, World War II celebration. What they don't say, Maggie says, my nephew just retired from the military. Our skies are always being watched. Yes, they are. One thing the Russians don't tell you is that in World War II, for the second half of the war, the Russians fought the bad guys, the Germans. For the first half of the war, the Russians were allied with the bad guys. They signed a pact that started World War II. The Russians signed the Ribbentrop-Molotov Pact, or the Molotov-Ribbentrop. Actually, I believe Molotov comes first. Ribbentrop Pact, and they pretty much gave the Germans permission to start World War II. They said, look, we're not going to go after you. We'll have a friendship treaty. You don't attack us. We won't attack you. And go for it. Have fun. We're going to grab Eastern Europe, Poland and other places. You grab whoever you want, and voila. And they did. And the Germans, took off. But what happened? Was it 2 years later, I think? The Germans turned around, thank you, Running, and Marcia, and they knifed the Russians in the back. And they attacked the Russians. So then it was like, oops. Then Russia was at war with Germany. But Russia, literally, I mean, they really are kind of amazing as government policy. To this day, it is the craziest thing that the Russians do, that they are like guys, it's been, 80 years since World War II. They just don't stop talking about World War II. And honestly, I think it is absolutely because of Russia's almost nonstop dictatorship that they've had really for the last 100 years. 100 years now, actually 105 years, right? That they pretty much had a dictatorship. They had a little bit of a break in the 1990s and then went back to it with Putin again. Certainly authoritarian. Now I would say it's a dictatorship. It may be a lighter dictatorship, right? Because it's not North Korea, but it's still a dictatorship. And this is how they keep the people in line, right? The Great Patriotic War. Look how great we were at 80. Mind you, thank you, Lero, for the lightning bolt and Running. Mind you, you always have to worry. Thank you, Elizabeth. I think it's a little weird, someone who runs around and goes, I was really good 80 years ago, right? Thank you, Olga. I did really good things 80 years ago. Whenever you find a country that does that, it always makes me kind of wonder, because you're kind of like, it sounds like you don't have anything more recent to talk about. Thank you, Olga, for the hat, mustache, right? That they don't. I mean, they really don't. I mean, other than World War II, Russia hasn't done a lot of really nice things, right? I mean, they've won some medals, putting that aside, right? But a lot of it's been because of doping in recent years. And also during the Soviet years, too, there was a lot of doping, East Germany especially. But the Russians don't have a lot of good things to talk about that they did for the world, right? Some cultural stuff aside. So that's what they talk about World War II. Yeah. So what do you do? The next person after Putin in vogue is asking, the problem is, could they be good? Yes. Could they be bad? Yes. The next person after Putin could be worse than Putin. There was an interesting article now, probably a year ago at this point, but there was an article about this, and it was, sorry, getting my chapstick, and it was sort of looking at the alternatives of who could be after Putin, who could come next. And the problem is, it was saying, for example, there's nobody liberal after Putin, right? It's not like there's a ton of Russians who are for peace, for working with the West, right? For attaching Russia more closely to Europe, right? I mean, Navalny was kind of that way. They killed him, right? The big opposition leader a couple months ago. So you don't have a liberal. I say liberal meaning more pro-Western, wanting to work with the West, wanting to be friends, this kind of thing, right? You don't have that. It was saying you could, for example, to replace Putin or to, once Putin dies or whatever, you could have sort of party apparatchiks, party functionaries who take over, and somebody who's just kind of somebody who kind of gets along and just keeps things going the way they're going. Maybe not a crazy propagandist or whatever like Putin, right? But just somebody who just kind of gets along, but nothing changes much. Or you could have a nut job take over. Thank you, Charles. Medvedev, nobody thinks he's going to be president, but he's crazy. Thank you, Charles. Let me phrase this. I shouldn't say he's crazy. He, I think, wants you to think he's crazy. I saw actually a theory the other day. Medvedev used to be the prime minister. Now he nonstop talks about nuclear war. And I saw kind of a funny theory the other day that the reason Medvedev talks nonstop about nuclear war, and threatens, he doesn't talk about it, he threatens it. He's not like he's worried about it. He threatens to nuke Berlin, he threatens to nuke France. It's stupid talk. And I read a theory the other day that I thought was fascinating, that the reason Medvedev does this isn't because he believes it. It's because anyone around Putin who is considered a threat eventually gets, thrown in jail or killed. And Medvedev, as the former prime minister, potentially could be seen as somebody approaching Putin's level. Hey, could Medvedev eventually take over whatever? And that therefore he puts out all the crazy talk and he talks nonstop about, we're going to nuke you all. This just crazy stuff, because he's literally trying to disqualify himself from leadership. He's trying to make it clear that he's unfit to be president so that Putin doesn't see him as a threat. It was a wild theory. I thought it was very interesting. How old is he? Alexa, how old is Dmitry Medvedev?
Dmitry Medvedev is 58 years old.
Oh my God, he's only 58? Oh my God. Okay, Jeff was asking how old he is. He's only, because Putin is young 70s. Is Putin like 72 maybe? Alexa, how old is Vladimir Putin? 71. Sasha, get in here. Sasha. My dog likes to hang out on the balcony, but I can tell whenever she disappears, it's because she's eating something. Get over here. It means she got into some of my plants and she's eating something. Get over here. I know you. And then it just means she's going to get sick later. Drives me crazy. Well, here's the thing. Ducky says, why do 70-year-olds get elected? Because they've got a lot of experience. This is something I think people forget. And maybe it's because as I get older, I think about it more. But, the reason, and again, men versus women is a different question, right? The reason it's usually men is because of sexism and all of that, right? Fair enough. Women are not represented enough in politics or in certainly business at the high levels. But the reason it's usually older people is because the older people paid their dues and have the experience. It always kind of gets me a little bit. Why shouldn't a 70-year-old be a leader? Because you know what? Let's say the leader's always 70 years old. Okay. Guess what? In 10 years, the next guy or gal who's 70 is from the next generation. And 10 years later, it's the next generation. Each generation would get their chance once they hit 70. I'm not saying leaders should be 70, but the notion that sort of the notion that, no, Catwoman, I do not live in Jersey. Nope. I live in Washington, D.C. I've rarely been to Jersey, really. But the notion, what are you doing? So it just sort of something that kind of gets to me, that the idea that I think you can be too old, right? In your 80s, let's face it, guys. In your 80s, you're usually not at your best, right? You're still good. You're a good person. You're smart. You could be very helpful, but I don't think you're usually at your best. But somebody who's 70, usually somebody who's 70 is still quite there. You know, again, 80 does start to push it, which, you know, Biden's there and Trump is like 2 years away or close, right? That's a different question. But I think sometimes younger people overlook the fact that age brings experience and wisdom of your age. Sasha, stop. Your age often means you know more, potentially, because you've been doing stuff for 50 years. Also, it can mean that you've got more experience and more wisdom in what you do because you've experienced more. So in principle, one hopes you got a better gut on stuff, but not always. I mean, anyway, I'm going to actually, the last disagreement I'll put on that is there's an argument that younger people could be more agile. Younger people could be more open to new ideas. Not as set in their ways. It's somebody with somebody who's 70 has so much experience that they're just dead set that they're right. So that it might be harder to prove them wrong. It might be hard not to prove them wrong, but to get them to accept that they're wrong. Thank you, Monica. Thank you, user, was it 336? So there is that aspect. Thank you again, Monica, for Paper Cranes. So I can appreciate that I think, I would say actually, from my perspective, I don't think leaders should be old or young. I think it kind of is nice to go back and forth and, you know what I mean? Let's have some presidents who are in their 40s. Let's have some presidents who are in their 70s. That's fine with me. But I think, like I said, sometimes people think older is somehow cheating them. And well, no, it's not, because when you get older, you can become president too if you want. And when you get older, you can become CEO, right? Once you've had 30 years at the company or whatever, right? So I don't necessarily, I bristle a little bit sometimes at the age argument, like for companies too. Well, you know what? Work there 30 years or get 30 years experience and you too can be CEO, you know? But when you're 40, you're a little young. Maybe not though. I shouldn't say that because I'm sure there's CEOs that are 40. Well, we know the people who start their own companies, but anyway. Gunther says, I hate when my dad and grandparents would say, you're just so young, you don't understand. Well, I will say that it helps for them to explain why. We had this conversation before. We have, but I think it's an interesting conversation to have. And it comes up. And also not everybody is with us each show. So I kind of like to sometimes hit the same topic again because, you know. Anyway. Oh, boy. Oh, are you, Bombsman? You're gonna sign a contract with the Armed Forces of Ukraine, but meaning are you going to sign up as a foreign fighter or are you Ukrainian? I'm assuming if you're signing a contract, you might be a foreign fighter. You know, I love Buttigieg. Buttigieg is great. He needed more experience, which he's getting now. You know, now Buttigieg is going to be hard. Okay, I mean this doesn't deal with Ukraine at all, but American presidents tend to be tall. American presidents tend to be like 6'1", 6'2". Oh, you're Ukrainian. Okay. Well, good for you. Be careful, obviously. But American presidents tend to be like 6'1", 6'2", which is a little over 2 meters. Almost always. It's very rare that you get a short, I mean, I'd be considered very short. I'm 5'10". So I think I'm like 177 centimeters, I believe. That doesn't exist for a U.S. president practically. Buttigieg is really short. Buttigieg is like 5'8", which I'm trying to think. Alexa, how many centimeters is 5'8"?
5 feet 8 inches is 172.7 centimeters.
172 centimeters. Pete Buttigieg, who's a American politician, very interesting, smart, sort of Obama-esque in his own way for a white guy. But he's short, and our presidents tend to be. Now, Alexa, how tall is Jimmy Carter? Alexa, how tall is Jimmy Carter?
Jimmy Carter is 5 feet and 10 inches
Okay, Carter was short. You're right. Carter was 5'10". Yeah, it's not always, but most of them. Alexa, how tall was Bill Clinton?
Bill Clinton's height is 6 feet and 2 inches.
6'2", Bill Clinton.
Question.
Alexa, how tall is Barack Obama?
Barack Obama is 6 feet and 1 inch.
6'1". Okay. See, 6 foot. Once you hit 6 foot, you're basically 2 meters. Alexa, how tall was George Bush, Senior? There's 2 George Bushes. Alexa may get confused. Alexa, how tall was George W. Bush?
George W. Bush was 5 feet 11 inches.
Oh, 5'11", little shorter. Okay, little shorter. Alexa, how tall was George H.W. Bush? That's the father. 6'2". Okay, Alexa, we know how tall Donald Trump is because he lies. Donald Trump is 6'1". So yeah, Alexa, quiet. American presidents tend to be, recent years at least, they tend to be. James Madison was 5'4". Okay, but that was 200 years ago. 250. Well, 200 and how long? 225 years ago, Madison. JFK, I think, was shorter, but that was also 60 years ago. Alexa, how tall was John F. Kennedy? Just curious.
Kennedy was 6 feet 1 inch.
Oh, 6'1".
He was the 10th tallest
Oh,
president
interesting.
in US
Oh, he was the 10th tallest president. I didn't even know that. That's interesting. 6'1". I didn't even realize that. Wow. Wow. And Joe Biden, I'm sure. Alexa, how tall is Joe Biden? We'll stop asking after this.
Joe Biden is 6 feet tall.
He's 6 foot.
14th tallest president in
Yep.
US
He was 6 foot. Yep. Anyway, Reagan. Okay. We'll ask Reagan too, and then we'll stop. Alexa, how tall was Ronald Reagan? Alexa, how tall was Ronald Reagan? Well, we know Trump, but Trump
Reagan
lies.
was 6 feet and 1 inch tall.
Reagan was 6'1". Trump is 6'1". Sometimes he lies a little, 6'2", and then he claimed he grew to 6'3" at age like 74, which no 74-year-old grows an inch. So Trump now claims he's 6'3". He's 6'1". 6'3" was more convenient because if Trump weren't 6'3", he would be morbidly obese. So he kept claiming he was 6'3". Again, he did not grow an inch at age 74. But in any case, yeah, my point stands that in recent years, at least the last 50 years, presidents tend to be 6'1", 6'2", over 2 meters. Yeah, I wonder if it's the same thing abroad. You know, Pete's pretty short. Pete's got to be 5'8", I think. Alexa, how tall is Pete Buttigieg? I think he's 5'8".
Pete Buttigieg is 5 feet 8 inches.
Yeah, he's 5'8". He's short. I mean, that's pretty short. You know, you get shorter, but that's pretty short for a guy. Doesn't mean he couldn't win, but it's, you know, he looks a little boyish, which doesn't help either to some degree, I think. You know? 6 foot is 1.8 meters? Well, I guess that's true. Well, that's 180. Yeah, because I'm 177. You're right. 2 inches more or 2.5 inches more would be 5 centimeters. I guess you're right. It would be like 182. Yeah, 6 foot would not be 2 meters. You're right. Yeah, sorry. You guys are right. 2 meters is 6'6". Sorry about that. Yeah. Well, because we typically think a meter is 3 feet, but it's very rough and it's not accurate. Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. So 1.83 does make sense. You're right. You're right. That does make sense. Because like I said, I'm 177 and I'm like 5'10" or 5'9 and a half. So add 2.5 inches and you've got 2.5 times 2.5, which gives you maybe 5 point something, which puts you to then 182, 183. Yeah. Centimeters. Yep. Anyway, was Lincoln the tallest? Oh. Alexa, who was the tallest president?
The tallest president is Abraham Lincoln, who was 6 feet 4 inches
Oh,
tall.
6'4", Abraham Lincoln. I did not know that. Interesting. 3.28 feet. Oh, so it's okay. So it's another 10%. Yeah, beyond. Okay. Anyway. So how are we, guys? What else is going on? Shortest guy in the family. Most are over 6'4". Wow. Always wanted to be tall. Tall is kind of fun. Tall is fun, but what do you do? Your daughter's partner is 6'8". Oh my, and she's 5'1". That's funny. That's funny. Wow. Wow. Sasha's 14 inches tall, maybe? I'm not sure exactly. I could pick you up, but then you'd freak out on me. Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. The funny part is I'm petting her, and then I tried to move in with my other hand, and she sensed it, and she ran. She hates being picked up. I was going to show her off to you guys. Hello, you. I know. She's hiding now. Thank you, Marcin. Marcin. Oh, that's an interesting name for the gift. Sasha is a Yorkie Bichon. So half Yorkshire Terrier, half Bichon Frise. She did say F you, yes. Now she moved to the bed, but she moved to the bed away from me. There's a bed under my desk that she's usually in when I'm working, like doing the show and stuff. She moved to the one that's like 8 feet away. Too funny. Yeah, I don't know if I'd want to be that tall. Yeah, like 6 foot something would be not fun for flying. Oh, boy. America does love dogs. I was reading, CNN had the polling recently that dogs have an 88% approval rating. This came up because the woman that was thought to be the #1 candidate for Trump to pick as vice president. Thank you, Marcin. 2 gifts from Marcin. Thank you for that. And G-Dub as well. The woman that they thought was going to be Trump's vice presidential candidate wrote a memoir, to help her politics. And she admitted in the memoir that she shot dead her dog and said that basically, he was a farm dog and was supposed to work, and he was, trouble, and he'd bite people and he wasn't good at his job. So she took him out and she shot him in the head. And she thought this was a good thing. Thank you, Marie. And people were just like, people were outraged because, like, you admitted you shot your dog to death. Like, could you have sent him for training? Could you have just turned him in to, like, couldn't you have just given him away or something? But you took him out back and you shot him in the head. And she doesn't understand why. And the best part is there was an interview. Her name's Kristi Noem. I think she's North Dakota governor, I think. And the best part was there's an interview of her the other day on, I think it's Newsmax. It was Newsmax. And Newsmax is this like Newsmax makes Fox News look liberal. Newsmax is right wing. It doesn't even pretend to be. They try to make it look like they're a news service. They're not a news service. And like the guy interviewing her even admits it would be horrible for the country if Joe Biden wins again, right? Like these guys don't even, like Fox News at least tries to pretend that they're a news source. A Fox host isn't going to, a news host isn't going to say it would be horrible for the country if Joe Biden wins. Newsmax, they just say it outright. This guy grilled her for 5 minutes about the dog and just destroyed her. And you got to find the interview. It was South Dakota? Oh, it's South Dakota. Okay. The interview was wild. Absolutely wild, this interview this guy did with her. And he's talking about, he says, a year ago, or maybe 6 months ago, you would have been at the top of my list for who I expected to become Trump's vice president. Now you're not even on the list. And she goes, why is that? And he goes, well, because like this whole thing about killing your dog. No, the dog was there. Actually, it wasn't just the dog. Her other problem was she claimed in her book that she met with the North Korean leader, Kim Jong-il. I always forget, Kim Jong-il, right? I always get him and his father and the grandfather, like all their names mixed up. But she claims she met the North Korean leader and stared him down. She never met the North Korean leader. No one meets Trump met him, but like nobody meets the guy down, right? Or Kim Jong-un, not Kim Jong-il. Kim Jong-un, right? Il was the father, right? Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Il was the father. Like I said, the North Koreans, I always get their names mixed up. But claims she met him and stared him down. And she got called on it, and they said, and goes, oh, well, as soon as I saw that, I told them, you take that out of the book. And it's like, and everyone's going, well, but it was in your book. Why was it in your autobiography that you met the North Korean leader and stared him down if you didn't do it? Did you meet him? Her answer then, and she said the same thing to Newsmax, her answer then is, I'm not going to get into the details of my conversations with foreign leaders. And they said, we're not asking you for the and Newsmax again. He goes, I'm not asking you for the details. I'm asking, did you meet him or not? He goes, because I don't think you did. I'm not going to get into the details. Oh my God. Thank you, Marie. It was crazy. Exactly. Why did you write it in the first place? And honestly, she had a ghostwriter, right? Of course, because they all have ghostwriters. Thank you, Marcin. And that's kind of normal. I mean, I'm used to that, right? Thank you, PC Noel, for the gift. And thank you, Marie, as well. But why did your ghostwriter, thank you, Dale, for all the roses. Why did your ghostwriter think that you stared down Kim Jong-un, right? Or, the North Korean leader. Right? He didn't make it up himself. You told him all of this stuff. He wrote the stuff you told him. Anyway, crazy. Yeah, she's in trouble. Now, Trump, you never know with Trump, because Trump doesn't necessarily care what other people say. The audiobook has to say the same. The audio, she did do the audiobook. And the audiobook must say the same, because people said she did the audiobook, and did she not catch it when she did the audiobook? Right? She did. Okay, Clem says she did read it in the audio version. Then she's just a liar, right? I mean, because let's face it, if you're reading your book for tape and recording it, if you're reading something that never happened, you'd stop and go, wait a minute, that never happened. And you'd say, you guys, we got to fix this, right? But she read it and left it in. She's a liar. Anyway, she killed a goat right after the dog, kept just saying. I did see a couple of you mentioning that on TikTok too. I didn't realize that. Well, again, it depends why you killed a goat. Like, we're Greek, we do eat goats. Now, goats are I learned subsequently, incredibly sweet animals. I met a goat in France that was the nicest damn animal on the planet. Oh my God. It was like a dog. I told you, when I met this goat in France, it was like a little goat, like a more petite goat. I walked up, my friend had it as a pet for the kids. I walk up and this thing's wagging its tail at me. And I'm like, I'm looking going, like, as a dog, it would be being friendly, but I'm going, okay, I don't know goats, right? I'm being careful. And I asked my friend, I said, is he friendly? He goes, oh, he's really friendly. I'm like, is he wagging his tail at me? He goes, yeah. I went to pet this thing. This thing couldn't have been friendlier. It was the most ridiculously friendly animal. And again, wagging its tail, wanting to be next to me. Oh my God. I felt terrible. I know they are delicious. I felt terrible because we eat goats, but oh my God, really friendly. Any case, but yeah, so she killed a goat too. It depends why. Like I said, if they were eating it, what do you do? She killed it because it made her kids dirty. The goat smelled bad. Oh God. Oh geez. And a goat, like I said, goats are goats are pretty, you don't kill a goat because they're bad, right? Like I said, the goat literally like a dog. It's literally like a dog how friendly this thing was. Blew my mind. Like in Greece, the goats, or no, we met donkeys. I guess I never met a goat in Greece. I met donkeys. Donkeys were more like horses to me. They kind of didn't care. You know what I mean? Or they're very smart and, whereas this was the first goat I met and the thing could have been a dog. It was so friendly. Yeah. No, I'd like to meet more. It was super friendly. And yeah, standing her ground exactly against the dog. Exactly. Oops. Sorry, I'm dropping my iPad. There we go. Anyway. Biden's uncle eaten by New Guinea? I'm not sure what that means, Susan. I know it's a joke, but I'm not sure what you mean. We did Russian-Ukraine war analysis for the first part. Then we're in the Q&A with the question part, and people just got into sort of every topic that was out there. Thank you, Super Hornet. Was the goat bad? Cute. And yes, Eurovision, I have not watched this year, and I was saying Saturday, unfortunately, I'm busy in Philadelphia, so I'm not going to be able to watch Eurovision this year, which is too bad, because typically we do it together, which is quite fun. So that's unfortunate, but what do you do? Oh, cannibals in Papua New Guinea? Thank you, Marcin, for the hat and mustache. Anyway, what else, guys? And then remember, like I said, so tomorrow I'm not doing a show because I'm going to be in Philadelphia. And then Saturday, we're not doing the Saturday show either because, again, Philadelphia. Otherwise, make sure I've got Saturday show. I think I've already canceled it on Discord. I'll make sure. Yeah, I can do the recap. There wasn't a ton of news today, Lynn, but I'll do the recap in a second. That's a good idea. How much of my analysis is right? Ask people here. most of my analysis. I don't think any of my analysis has been wrong. Very little. Everything I've said about the Russians has been right. But of course, I know the Russians. And I studied the Russians, and I studied the Soviet Union in graduate school at Georgetown. And I've been to the Soviet Union, and I've been to Russia. And I studied the Russian language. Other than that, I don't know a lot about Russia. By the way, that person's a troll. Yeah, that person's a troll, mods. Just mute him. I mean, there's no way the person's not real. They're a troll. As I've said, I've been doing this for 30 years, and you can smell the people who are fake like a mile away. What was I looking at? What were you guys? I was launching Discord for some reason to look at something. Why was it? I'm trying to. To whether make sure I didn't have a show tomorrow. I canceled tomorrow's already. That's good. Okay. Yep. So we'll do next week. Perfect. Thank you, Elizabeth, for the gift, and thank you, Jeremy, as well. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Just wanted to make sure I had it there. I do have it there. That's good. Beep, 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 beep. Yeah, no, I think my analysis on Ukraine's been pretty good. Again, I could be wrong. You never know, but it's been pretty. Certainly, my analysis on Biden, I think, has been spot on. I called him early on, and I was right. Can I smell what the trolls are saying? No, but I can smell the trolls. I can smell trolls like Christy Gnome smells goats. But it's true, meaning you can sort of, thank you, Dale, for the gift. You can tell when you've been managing online communities for years, you can just tell who's somebody who's dishonest and is just there to cause trouble. Versus, no, sometimes you get it wrong, but you can usually tell the bad people versus just somebody who disagrees. And like that person was just a bad person. And you can tell anyway. You can, whenever they say something nasty and put a smiley face, they're literally Russian trolls. I mean, and I don't know why they do this. I shouldn't be telling it because it's one of the tricks here, but the Russians love using smiley faces. So they'll say something obnoxious and use a smiley face, and like 9 times out of 10, if not more, it's a Russian troll because they're like trained to do that. But it's stupid because normal people don't tend to do that. I mean, people use smileys, but not like obnoxious in a smiley. That's like Russian troll, always. So, but it can't be right and wrong, Clem. I mean, analysis, he says, is like educated opinion, not really right or wrong. But it can end up being correct or incorrect. This is something, I had a professor once at Georgetown, at graduate school, who was former CIA. And I vaguely remember him saying something at the time that I thought was very interesting about the CIA's analysis of things and how, people would say, you got it wrong. You predicted something and it didn't happen. And I forgot basically what he explained was just because the prediction doesn't happen or things turn out differently doesn't mean the analysis was wrong. The analysis could have been right, but things just went differently. It's kind of like the weather to some degree, I would argue, where the weathermen, weather ladies, weather people do the best they can with the information, with the data they've got. And the data suggests an 80% chance of rain. But sometimes it's chaos theory, really. There's too much data, too many things can change that they're not always right. But did the weathermen do a bad job? No. They did typically, hopefully, they did the best job they could. Thank you, Red Duke. Appreciate that. And it's the same thing with the CIA analysis he was saying, which is based on the information, they could have done a perfect analysis of what was coming, but things change. New facts arise. A new leader comes out of nowhere. There's a terrorist attack. Black swan events, they call them in economics. Something huge that's impactful that you don't expect and no one could predict, like a terrorist attack or something that changes everything. Israel, right? The Palestinian attack on Gaza, the Gaza attack on Israel, October 7th, that was a black swan event. It was an event you couldn't really predict when, and you couldn't predict the extent of it, and it changed everything. That would be, so similar things with, if you were to say, well, nobody predicted Israel and Gaza would be at war and it would be this kind of war. Well, nobody could have predicted that the Palestinians would have pulled off what they did on October 7th. Anyway, not to get into that whole issue, but Therefore, anyway, but it's a funny thing. Like I said, the CIA professor I had was trying to explain how just because their predictions are wrong doesn't mean they weren't right, in the sense that it doesn't mean they did a bad job. They might have done a perfect job, but there's only so much you can do. The Fauci effect. What do you mean by that, JR? Just curious. I know you're not being trolly. I'm just curious what it means. Yeah, I mean, Biggs, that's a whole other issue. I didn't kind of want to get into the issue. I just meant in the sense that you have black swan events, you have other things that come that nobody is able to really predict to that degree, and it changes everything. And then you could say, well, you didn't predict it, but yeah, you act on the best information you have. Exactly, JR. Yeah. And just because you get it right or wrong, or just because you get it wrong, doesn't mean you did a bad job, because you may have given the best analysis you could based on the present information. Because also, the weathermen or CIA or whatever, they're not fortune tellers. They don't know the future. They've got to guess, not even guess. They've got to analyze what the future, what the potential or the percentage chance of certain futures happening, right? Based on the information they've got, but the information is never going to be perfect because there's too many variables. Whether it's the weather or whether it's, like I said, whether it's the CIA or whatever. I say CIA because a lot of what the CIA does, people think it's just spying and stuff, and they do, but a lot of what they do too is analyzing information and trying to sort of predict what's coming, and trying to understand what's going on beneath the surface, not simply, doing sneaky spy stuff, right? They do that too, of course. Any case, thank you, Marcin. Just looking to see what else we got here. Oh, there was a cannibalism remark? I didn't know that. Biden had a cannibalism remark? He implied his uncle was eaten? Get out of here. Let me pull this up. Now you got me curious here. Hold on. Biden cannibal. Biden's controversial cannibalism remark meets pushback in Papua New Guinea. Oh, God, what did he do? This was from 2 weeks ago, though. U.S. President Joe Biden, this was when I was in Asia, so I didn't see this. U.S. President Joe Biden's apparent suggestion his uncle may have been eaten by cannibals during World War II has sparked uproar in Papua New Guinea, casting a shadow on U.S. relations with the Pacific nation. Oh, my God. In contentious remarks made last week following a visit to a war memorial, Biden twice hinted that the U.S. was unable to recover his uncle Ambrose Finnegan's remains after his plane crashed near the island of New Guinea during the war because there used to be a lot of cannibals in the region. In a statement from his office, the prime minister conceded that Biden may have misspoken, but pushed back against the characterization of cannibalism in the Pacific Island nation. My country does not deserve to be labeled. While cannibalism was documented among remote tribes in the region in the mid-20th century, Papua New Guinea has struggled to shed stereotypes in more recent decades. That's not quite a denial. Okay, that's not a denial. Okay, guys, I got to tell you. I'm reading this, and this story does not say Biden screwed up. Listen to this comment on Twitter. Papua New Guinea shouldn't be seen as cannibals because of our past history. We are part of modern civilization. Okay, but right? I mean, you shouldn't be seen as cannibals because of your past history means your past history was cannibals. I got to tell you guys, I'm not seeing something here that says Papua New Guinea didn't have cannibals. I agree. It got him into trouble, right? And it would get him into trouble, but I'm not seeing Biden got it wrong. I think it of course would get him into trouble now. Yeah. And yes, RFK Jr.'s brain worm, that was a crazy story. So, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's running for president, I think he's crazy, admitted recently that in 2011, they found a worm in his brain, a dead worm in his brain that apparently ate some of his brain and then died in his brain. I say a worm, but like a parasite. Really messed up. And he claims, I'm better now. It didn't affect me. A parasite got into your head and ate your brain? That's weird enough, but I'm okay. I'm okay. Honestly, he's so weird. He's just so weird that there's a part of me that doesn't believe him. I think he's weird. I'm sorry. I mean, he's not just weird. He's crazy. But I think he's also very weird. Oh, Google it. He claimed it. Oh, yeah, it's a big story. I don't know if it's true. What I mean is I don't know whether he's telling the truth, but it's a big story. Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. Trust me, I first saw it and I thought, this story is nuts. He didn't say that. And then it got to be a bigger and bigger story, and I read a whole interview with him on it. He said it. Yeah. Yeah. So, little weird. They thought it was a brain tumor, and one doctor said, it's a parasite. It's a worm. And they did more tests and found that the worm had eaten part of his brain. It's like, oh my God, okay. See, Maggie, I tell you the news. No, Google it. It's a crazy story. Like I said, he interviewed about it too. You know? Very weird. Yeah, the polio stuff is crazy, but exactly what Dad too just said. You know, he and his foundation that he created, this anti-vaccine foundation, believe that polio isn't caused by the polio virus. It's caused by toxins. That's a lie. And that the polio vaccine doesn't work, which is also a total lie. I mean, like literally the polio vaccine could be the most the most historically significant vaccine in history, I think, to date, right? The HPV vaccine, pretty significant though, recently, but I would say polio could be the most successful vaccine in history in terms of impact and everything else. And he claims it doesn't work. It's like, okay, crazy man. That's my problem with the guy. Like, people say, well, what about his other positions? Guys, if someone's crazy, I don't care what your other positions are, because you're crazy. You know, like, I mean, it just that's sort of a crazy is a deal breaker for me, you know? It's very weird. Oh, the dog wants, we've gone long. The dog wants more water. One second. Yeah, the polio vaccine, hugely significant, hugely impactful. I mean, here you go. There you go. All right. Anyway, very strange. Very strange. All right, guys. I am going to do the quick summary. We only, like I said, had about 6 stories tonight. I'll do the quick. Smallpox is the first vaccine, but I was saying sort of the most impactful, or the most. I wonder what would be considered the historically most successful vaccine. That's my question. Actually, I don't know if Alexa could answer that. Alexa, what is the historically most successful vaccine?
According to an Alexa Answers contributor, Dr. Edward Jenner created the world's first successful vaccine. He found out that people...
No, Alexa, stop. No, she was just answering what was the first successful vaccine. That's not the question. I'm saying, like, what's the most successful vaccine in history that's had the biggest impact? I think it could be polio. I think it could be polio. You know? Imports, exports, effective Ukrainian drones. I mean, Doughboy, I can look. I don't know that we know much. I mean, the latest was several weeks ago, maybe a month ago, when they were saying that Ukrainian drones had taken out 14% of Russia's oil refinery capacity. We haven't seen any figures recently on that. So I don't know. I don't know that I can find out. I mean, I could look, but I don't know that we know. You know, they're still going after stuff, but I just don't know. Now, we also know that Gazprom, which is like the big energy agency for Russia, is having a significant loss this year, and it's Ukrainians have not helped with their attacks, but it's also because Europe is no longer buying, I think it's liquefied natural gas from them, which is interesting. So my thoughts on the Engeron investigation that just started? No. No. Anyway, all right. Let me give you the quick summary of the stories we covered, and then we're going to call it quits, guys. We've been doing this for an hour and a half. Today is day 885 of Vladimir Putin's special 3-day military operation. Ukrainian drone striked multiple Russian oil facilities, including one refinery 1,500 kilometers or 1,000 miles inside Russia to the east of Ukraine. Germany is going to buy 3 HIMARS weapon systems for Ukraine. Germany will also provide 45 million euros or $48 million in the form of a grant for energy restoration. The Czech president says the first batch of artillery shells that he has coordinated to buy for Ukraine, he's coordinating 1.5 million shells. The purchase of the first shipment should arrive in June in Ukraine. That's a big deal. Bloomberg reports that the U.S. has stepped in and has been successfully able to stop Russia from using Starlink internet, satellite internet in Ukraine to help the war effort. And finally, President Zelensky dismissed former General Zaluzhny from military service, citing health grounds. And to me, this sounds like this sort of ongoing feud between the two men isn't getting any better. He basically fired Zaluzhny, who was the guy in charge of the war, and then appointed him as ambassador to Britain, which is a good position, an important position. But now it sounds like they're still going after each other, which is too bad. So anyway, what do you do? All right, guys. I am going to call it quits. It's 7:37, which means we've been doing this for an hour and 40. Although, granted, the first 20 minutes was figuring out my technical problem, but hopefully this works now. I'm hoping this works. Would I have worked with the CIA? No, because I'm gay and I was afraid that I'd be in trouble. Now, in retrospect, sure. I would love to work for the CIA. But back then, I was you couldn't really be gay and get a security clearance. You could get into a lot of trouble with security clearances and everything else. I got into the State Department as a diplomat. I passed the exam and I didn't take it. I turned it down because of the gay thing. Because again, back then, it wasn't allowed. So yeah, anyway, which I very much regret now because that was my big goal was to be a diplomat, and I passed the Foreign Service exam, which is not something a lot of people pass. It's a very hard exam, and I passed it, which is great, but what do you do? It was the 1980s. It was a different era. Bill Clinton came to power. By the way, Bill Clinton, who young people today like to attack Bill Clinton because they weren't around in the 1990s to see what a successful presidency he had. Bill Clinton came in and was the first president to basically make it, he did an executive order making it basically okay for gay people to get security clearances and said you can't use being gay against them on security clearances. Changed everything. But that was already too late, so what do you do? Very different era, yeah. Very weird. Now, Clinton was a big deal. Clinton was an excellent president, and again, people today like to disparage him. Again, I can see why Republicans disparage him because you're Republican and Democrats attack each other. That's okay. I mean, that I get. But for Democrats today, young Democrats to play games with the Clinton thing always gets me because he was a great president. It was an incredibly successful presidency. The Monica thing was ridiculous. It was horrible. Obviously, he was horrible for what he did there. And she was horrible too, by the way. I don't defend her. I mean, she got what she wanted out of that relationship. So I have no sympathy for her, but he nonetheless shouldn't have done that. Like, he's a grown man. He should know better. But incredibly successful economically. He inherited a huge deficit from Reagan, a budget deficit. He left the presidency after 8 years with a budget surplus, a $400 billion budget surplus. Nobody does that anymore. Clinton was just so freaking successful. Yeah. And again, people, nowadays we're all supposed to go, oh, he was bad and the crime bill. And, people like to play games with history. And politicians are afraid to defend them. I mean, Clinton will defend himself, but Democrats are afraid to defend him. I mean, I care about the Monica thing because I care about it though, because it was incredibly stupid and reckless of him, but not for the reason like they say, like, oh shit, poor Monica. Oh, frick, poor Monica. Monica got exactly what she wanted out of that relationship. She knew what she was doing. She wasn't a kid, so I have zero sympathy for her, but I'm pissed at him for what he did. So I'm not going to defend him for that. So there. All right, guys. All right, let's go. So like I said, tomorrow I am going to be in Philadelphia, so I will not be doing the show tomorrow. Saturday, we will not do our Saturday show because, again, I'm in Philadelphia, but I will be back Sunday afternoon and we'll be doing the shows all next week and everything else. And the sound does sound off tonight because I can't use my normal microphone today. I left something in Chicago. I ordered a new thing from Amazon that'll come on Sunday. So Monday, the microphone should work again on TikTok. Right now, it's just my iPad microphone, so it's not. See, if I do this, you can hear me louder and better. But I can't hold my iPad next to my face for the whole show. But that's the problem. So, exactly. I've got to go find some cheesesteaks on Saturday. That's the goal. All right, guys. Have a good night. I'm glad we got all the technical stuff sorted out relatively. I may have to write notes for next time I go away so I know what I'm doing when I come back. Thank you for the gifts. Thank you, moderators, as always, for moderating. And thanks for hanging out, guys. This was I know we sort of got off on a lot of other stuff, but honestly, I kind of enjoy when we do that. I kind of like when we have our conversations about everything. Thank you, Dale. It just kind of makes it more fun. So anyway, all right, guys. Thank you, Deep Press, for the gift. You guys have a good night. And I will see you all on Monday. All right? All right. Goodbye, all. Tony Luke's for cheesesteak. Okay, I'll try to keep this stuff in mind. I got to go somewhere. Thank you, Marcin. Because I don't even know that I've had a Philly cheesesteak, a real one, I mean, in Philly. I do like cheesesteaks, but I don't know in Philly that I've had one. But I would like to. Nice and heavy on the stomach, but who cares? Exactly. Burp, Clem. All right, guys. I'll see you. See you all on YouTube.